Hi, and welcome to Modding Mental Health.
A podcast about video games and, well, mental health.
In this episode, we discuss Firewatch. Our conversation includes talks of alcoholism, Alzheimer's, death, and parental neglect. Thank you for your time and discretion.
Now that you know what's coming your way, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and join us. And hey there, Delilah. What's it like at the third lookout?
Hello, Kat. Hi.
Hi, Messenger. What's going on?
Are you excited?
Welcome back to another episode 9 of Modding Mental Health.
I can't believe it's 9 episodes.
Right? It's kind of mind-boggling.
Right? We've been doing this for almost 10 months now at this point. Yeah, so we almost have like a weekly, monthly streak going when it comes to episodes, right? We're on 9. We've been doing this for almost 10 months. Pretty good.
Yeah, I would say we're doing pretty good. We had a strong start, is why.
Yeah. Do you have any updates that you can give us?
Nothing really has changed for me other than we've just a lot of travel. There's been a lot of vacation time.
Right. I've seen some pictures.
We went to South Carolina. Oh yes. We actually ended up taking our cats to my boyfriend's parents' house. So we drove there, so then our cats had somewhere to stay, while we then flew to South Carolina to hang out with my family at the beach, which was a lot of fun. And we were there for a week. And then we flew back to PA to pick up the cats and then stay there for 2 days and then drive home again, which is great.
Very busy.
Yeah, and then right now it's... At the time of recording, it is August 11th. And in, I want to say 2 weeks from now, yeah, exactly 2 weeks, I will be heading up to the great state of Michigan to be hanging out with Harry, Rodfer, Rachel Cave.
I'm so fucking jealous.
The whole gang. I haven't met Swiss yet, so this will be exciting. The only one I haven't
This
met,
is so cool.
Yeah.
You guys
go to a little festival.
have to call in so I can say hi to all of you.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, so you've been traveling. I've been just staying in one place since I just came back from rehab. It was, let me tell you, when the episode that we recorded before my rehab stay came out, because you edit them and then you send them over to me and I listen to them, make sure that I'm also okay with everything that is said in there.
Right.
And it was a trip and a half to listen to this episode about halfway through my rehab stay of me talking about like what I will do or what I will focus on or whatever. That was fun. In a way, it was also a bit surreal, and I don't know. I didn't feel bad about it, but I felt some type of way, which is really hard to explain. But yeah, overall that was good. So rehab was pretty good for me.
That's good.
I came back differently medicated. I'm now on ADHD meds. Whoop.
Yay!
She's on the amphetamine train, which I know there's other meds out there, which I think in the long run I would rather be on, but for now it's working for me, so I'm not complaining too much.
Okay, good. Do you feel do you feel like it's working, or yes and no?
Yeah, well, yeah, basically that. So the thing is, I've been taking them in the mornings. So, and I'm on a very low dosage, which means they probably only last until halfway through the day.
Oh, okay.
And I can kind of feel like I have like a crash halfway through the day where it seems as if everything is sort of rushing back in. The thoughts are becoming louder again. And it's like, oh God, I don't know where I am. And I get really, really tired. I've been circumventing this with just drinking coffee or energy drinks or something during that crash time. That seems to be helping in a way. And I haven't really felt it very much taking it, but oh boy, there was one day where I didn't take them. Like I did a little break day. It was the day after I'd come back from rehab, and since it's like an amphetamine, they don't give you the drugs, so I had to go to my doctor here and get another prescription. And since the prescription didn't come into the pharmacy until like midday, and I take them in the mornings, I was like, okay, I can just do a break day today. And boy, I was like so freaking scatterbrained. I was not able to focus on a task for longer than 5 minutes. I kept jumping in between tasks. Like I got things done, but it was a lot harder than it was like the couple days before doing things. And I was
Did
like,
that frustrate you? Like, did that make you frustrated?
it made me feel like, holy shit, how did I ever get anything done like this?
Mm-hmm.
How did I ever function like this? And it made me feel grateful that I finally now have this diagnosis, which allows me to get the medication help. And I think it's a good tool for me at least. And we'll see whatever happens in the long run. But for now, I'm taking it. And I'm just hoping that when we maybe get the dosage a bit higher and so on, maybe then throughout the day it will help me so that I don't like crash midway through.
For sure.
But yeah, I think it's definitely helping. I've been, I mean, anyone who's probably had a diagnosis can relate to this, but I'm constantly struggling with, wait, is this actually the sort of reaction that you would expect from ADHD medication for someone who has ADHD, or did I just gaslight everyone and do I not have ADHD or ADD rather? And is this a reaction that like neurotypical people have when taking it? But typically, so when a neurotypical person takes this medication, they would get like really elated and really hyper, and apparently people in college take it to like work throughout the whole night and they don't feel it or anything like that. So that's what I've been looking up online, and I definitely have a bit of a reverse reaction than that. Like, yes, it's a bit easier for me to start things, like I definitely don't have that big thing, but I think that's because I don't have to think through the task 10,000 times to get all the steps right to then start the task. I can just kind of do it, and then I can focus on one thing at a time easier. I am more so tired.
Yeah.
So I've been more tired in the first days taking it than being like super chipper and hyper and stuff. So I'm like, I think my brain has different chemical reaction. So I think it's doing well, but I'm still, of course, I'm still in that phase where I'm like, but it seems to be working well. And if I see the reverse on a day that I hadn't taken, it was like so all over the place, that I'm like, okay, I think it's making it easier for me.
Yeah.
Holy shit, is that how normal people live?
That's how I felt when I got medicated too. Was wow. Who knew?
Yeah.
And mine's like, I'm assuming yours is similar. It's like an extended release capsule, so there's like multiple, it's like little beads inside one giant thing. That's how mine is, at least.
I don't know.
So it's like mine is supposed to last like throughout the entire day. So it's like it like releases tiny little capsules as you like digest it. So you get like doses it throughout the day.
Do you have to have yours with food?
Yeah, I mean, I usually take it when I'm like around the times I'm about to eat in the morning anyway, so yeah, I try to take it with something, if not a granola bar.
Because I was told that different foods and different drinks can make the release process different. So I was told to not have any orange juice an hour before and after taking my ADHD meds, because it would just speed up the release process. It would just dump it all in one basically into my body. And it's like, I'm finding these things out via online fora and podcasts and TikToks and whatever, but my doctors don't talk to me about that. I don't think people know a lot about it, and it's more a trial by error kind of thing. So I'm trying to be hyper vigilant of how I'm feeling. I try to do a journal Of course, I didn't keep it up because it was too much work. So I'm switching it to a bullet journal, and I already prepared parts of it. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that because I only have to color in, it's gonna make it easier for me. So
Oh, interesting.
gonna report up back on that next month.
I've heard of people doing that, but
So
I don't think I have the follow up. Like I can't
yeah,
follow
no, that's
through
why
it.
that's the
It's
part that I
hard.
usually struggle with, the follow through.
I don't think I'll be able to bullet journal because I'm a person to just stray away from the important mental health stuff and just start writing random like lyrics, like plain white tea lyrics. Hey there, Delilah. What's it like in New York City? Because I think in Firewatch, Delilah might bullet journal. I'm not sure though, but
She would. Oh my god, Delilah. What a character. What a character. All right, Firewatch.
many opinions.
Yeah.
Many
Yeah.
opinions.
I've seen a couple clips from you playing Firewatch because you played it on stream. I think you sent me one from the very start of the game, and your reaction was gold. I don't know if you have any more clips that I can watch later, but I would love
I might have a
to.
few. I don't
Oh,
remember.
so good. But you sent me this, and I think I was still in rehab or just coming home. And this is one of the first things I saw. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be such a good episode because I can already tell. Do you want to give us a quick summary of what Firewatch is about to someone who has never played the game before? Which you absolutely should, but we'll come back to that later.
So, a quick summary of Firewatch. Spoilers
Well, yeah. Duh.
in case you want to play. So, when you first start up Firewatch, it's like a story prompt. You have there's not so much action, more as you're reading kind of
Mhm.
a story, and you're given different prompts to choose from for how you react to said story. And
Yes.
that pretty much impacts your future and what you do as this character named Henry.
AKA Hank.
Yeah, aka, what's his name? Hank?
Yeah, Delilah calls him Hank. His real name is Henry, but Delilah calls him Hank.
So then the story continues. In my version, I don't know if it changes at all, but
Mm-hmm.
in my version of the story, my wife, Julia, got onset dementia,
Mm-hmm.
and Henry decided, I'm gonna assume against his wishes or as some sort, he decided to get a job for the Firewatch, watching fires. And that's pretty much that's where you start off, is that you scout out. I think it's like working for a national park
Yes.
is the best way to describe it.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the choices you made that in the beginning? Because I think they're important to understand the story a bit.
So from what I remember of my choices is I got a dog and we named
Mm-hmm.
it Bucket.
Oh, so you got the beagle.
Yes, I got the beagle
Yeah.
named Bucket.
So you could either get a beagle or you could get a German Shepherd.
Oh, okay. I talked Julia into working. I said I'm a terrible husband.
I think it was the choice between either not telling her to not take the job or to like talk her out of the job or let her go commute, right?
Mm-hmm. But I talked her into staying.
Oh, you talked her into staying. Interesting. Okay. I let her go and let her commute because she's a professor at university. Okay, so you talked her into staying.
I really took on this role of Henry, of what I had in my mind. I embodied what I had in my mind of how Henry would be.
Mm.
And then when it said that she had onset dementia,
It's like early onset dementia, right? She was like in her 40s, early 40s.
yes,
Yeah.
very young. I decided to take care of her by myself instead of putting her into a home. And I think that's all I have down.
I think so. I did both because this was my second playthrough. You can. I think the first choice I made, I put her in a home because I was like, I'm thinking I personally would be overwhelmed with taking care of someone, and I don't think I could provide the best care. And I think that is somewhat reflective in the outcome that Henry has when he takes care of her at her home, because he starts drinking, he starts going out, he puts a chair in front of her door
Right.
so she doesn't wander out at night. Or you can either put a chair on or you cannot put a chair in, yeah, and you get arrested and you have to call her sister, and they get over there and they find the place basically in shambles because you haven't taken care of it enough, and they take Julia home with them to Australia. And then the other, I took care. I sent her to a clinic, an institution to take care of her, and it says he first visits every day, but then the visits get less and less, and in the end, the same thing happens, that the parents take her back home to Australia. So either way, she's going back home, and she's like a million miles away. And I think that's also a reason why Henry takes the job in the end, because he's basically running from his problems and trying to escape reality for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's basically the beginning. So you do have, I would call them non-choices, but I did like it better. I personally liked it better to send her to a facility because I don't have her, like, I don't start neglecting her in that way. Like, in a way, yes, but not in like a physical way.
Right.
I chose differently this time, and I was very surprised by the outcome. I was like, oh god, I really don't. And I was like, this is exactly why I sent her to the facility the first time, because I don't want this to happen.
I know. I decided to take care of her by myself. I don't remember getting arrested though. But I do know at some point she does go to the facility anyway. In my point too. Like later on she does. And it was like against I can't remember what, and I might be completely wrong and misremembering. So
Either way, I think it's basically comes back to the same winning. But
right,
yeah.
yeah.
So this is where you start your Firewatch duty. Firewatch, that's a real job, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. I follow a couple creators on TikTok who do Firewatch duty in the months in summer.
And very accurate to our today's environment too. We are living that.
Like, so much. It's crazy. But yeah, so that's where it starts off. And yeah, you said you meet two teen girls by the lake. Basically, your supervisor Delilah, right, sends you out to investigate some fireworks being set off.
Right. We don't want fireworks in dry season.
No.
So
Absolutely
we
not.
are sent to head down to put an end to it. And in my playthrough, I arrived on the scene, and of course, if you observe, there are like clothing scattered around, so it's implied that the girls in the distance, you never actually really see them or come into contact with them. But it's implied that, you know,
they're naked.
They're a little naked. They're skinny dipping. In my playthrough, I was kind of, you know, digging around a little bit, you know, kind of joshing around. I picked up their stereo and I just yeeted it into the water. They had a stereo playing music and I just threw it into the water. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know it would allow me.
Yeah.
And it did. And that was the decision I made as Henry to make. And man, when I tell you, those girls were not happy with me. Their reaction to that was so funny. They called me many names, but they left. And I think they called me crazy too. But they left.
Oh, for sure. I think I did the same on my first playthrough. I also yeeted it into the water. On my second, I tried to take it home with me, but I got so sick of the same song playing over and over again, I just left it somewhere along in the forest. So next, I think Henry comes across a cave and it is locked. So there is like, you can go into the cave, but you can't go very deep into it. There is a gate and it's currently locked. And he asks Delilah, like, who has the key? And she's like, oh, some ranger probably boarded it like a while ago. Let me go check. But I don't think she ever actually checks on it. When he comes back from seeing the cave and everything, he comes back to his fire tower and his whole fire tower is trashed.
Right.
Like, his comforter's missing.
It's implied that the girls
Yes.
rummaged through it and kind of sabotaged his place. They also cut lines, didn't
they? They did communication lines. I think that's when he hikes up there, and then on the way back, he tries to follow. I want to say he tries to get back, or he tries to find the camp where the girls were. He tries to follow like a trail. And he can see that the tent is trashed where they were staying. And they left a note to, we're guessing, Henry, being like, you're crazy idiot. I hope you're happy with yourself. You know, now we're going to go. We're going to call the police and set the police on you. You're awful. Basically implying that they think that Henry trashed the place, which is not true. He was about to. But
yeah, you come across this, like, trash campsite.
Yeah.
And the women think you trashed their campsite because, you know, in my playthrough, I threw the stereo in the water, so why wouldn't I trash their campsite? But we didn't.
We were just technically about to.
Yeah.
Because Delilah told us to give them a good scare, but we didn't actually do it yet, so it is a bit of a mystery, like who trashed or...
So someone else...
Or something.
Scared them away.
Yeah.
Or something.
And then we don't really hear from them again until a bit later, but between that, there's a very scary thing that happens.
It's very much a mystery story.
Yeah.
And I think Paranoia plays a huge plot point.
Yes.
Because you never actually see anything scary.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing gory. There's nothing traumatizing, I would say. There's nothing... I don't know. It's like, at its core, it's not... It's just psychologically uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's definitely psychological.
Uncomfortable is the best word I think I can use. Psychologically uncomfortable.
There's some stories Delilah tells you about previous lookouts, because you find some notes between a couple people. And then she actually shares with you that a couple years ago, a father-son duo, Ned and Brian Goodwin, were actually at your lookout, Two Forks lookout. They used to stay there. And then you're kind of brought into like, oh, there's kids allowed here? And she's like, technically no, but, you know, I couldn't really say no. The dad was like an ex-military type. Like, this is in the late 80s, by the way. This is in 89, so this is, the dad was like an ex-Vietnam veteran. And he had like his, I'm gonna say like pre-teenage, something like around 13, maybe 14 years old, son with him. But you don't really know too much. Like, Delilah doesn't really tell you too much about it, and it's more of a story in passing. I think the whole story starts to pick up more and more when the first time, I think you're around Jonesy Lake and you find a walkie-talkie on the floor. I think you said, oh, it's really wobbly, because the antenna is very wobbly.
Yeah.
And then you just get clocked over the head. And it's a bit weird, because I think right before you see that, you also see a notebook talking about you. Like,
and even before that, you saw somebody with a flashlight. You didn't see their face. But you saw an outline of somebody, and then they're shining a flashlight directly at you. And then they see you, and then they turn around and they run away. And you never see them again, pretty much.
Very scary.
And it was terrifying to see.
And Delilah is just like, it's the outside.
Yeah, when you tell Delilah about it, she kind of just makes fun of you and cracks a joke.
Yeah.
I just want to note, Delilah, red flag, whole entire time. Did not like her. Absolutely, seriously, despised her. If I could delete her from the game, I would. Like, that's how much I do not like this character.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I was wondering if she was gonna push her buttons. She absolutely did.
Needs to mind her business is what I have. Needs to mind her business.
Very nosy. Yeah. But yeah, so with you seeing the figure, you're then seeing notes that are about you and Delilah, your exchanges between each other, and then getting clopped over their head after finding a walkie-talkie. The story starts to develop into a more or less like a ghost hunt.
It wasn't even like about Delilah and Henry, it was their transcripts, like what they had been saying.
Yeah. So someone was listening.
Yeah. So they knew somebody had been listening to them over their walkie-talkies.
Yeah. Very scary.
But yeah, it turns into a ghost hunt.
More or less.
It's paranoid. It made me so paranoid.
Yep. The whole entire time, the first time I played it through, I was anticipating something to jump out at me.
Oh, same. Ever after I got clocked in the head, I was waiting to receive maybe a weapon or maybe to get hurt again or to fall into a trap. Never happens.
Well, it is scary. At some point, you technically get a weapon because you get I don't know what it's actually called. I'm just going to call it an X. It's something more specific. It's like a fire person something. I'm just going to call it an X.
Pulaski Fire X?
Pulaski. Yeah, that's it. A Pulaski is a specialty hand tool used in fighting fires, particularly wildfires, which combines an axe and an adze in one end. What's an adze? Well, we're going to put a picture in. So anyway, we find that and I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. But you just break down a gate.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're looking around, right? And one thing that you find just off the beaten path is a giant fence surrounding an area that you can't really look into too much. And it all seems very hush-hush and a bit weird, like a science area or something, maybe like a military area. There is a fence there and you try to break in, but you can't make it. And later on, when you return with the tool, you can actually break in. And it's called Wapiti Station. And so I think this is where, for me at least, the story really kicked up. Because you go into this station and so technically what you find, right, is a tower, a transmitting tower.
Mm-hmm.
You find a soil grid. You find some other sciencey looking tools. You find a little tent with a couple cots in there, some maps of some sort, some I also like soil samples and research papers and so on and so forth. And you also find, I think it's like a frequency transmitter thing, which starts beeping and giving you like a compass combined with like, I think it's a frequency thing. Like it just starts beeping, right?
It acts like a compass, but it seems like it's following like an electromagnetic field.
Yes.
It beeps at you when you get closer to something.
Right. And then when you follow that, you come across a folder hidden under some papers called Subjects, Henry, and Delilah. And it's all the communication you've had, plus you get like little tidbits of information about each of you that you didn't know before. So Henry is like, there's stuff in here that I haven't told you. And then he also says, because at some point they're talking about relationships, and Delilah says she had a boyfriend, but they broke up long ago. But in this report, it says that they're still together? ? So it's like a little...
We were on a break.
Not the Ross and Rachel.
I was about to say, for any friends.
Oh, God.
Any friends, lovers out there, it's for you.
Right. So now they're convinced that they're subjects in a...
And I would like to add, Delilah had a note that she is a compulsive liar. So that's something else to take into consideration. And after you find all of these notes and all of these files that on yourself, that's when you receive the wave receiver and all
That's
that,
what it's called.
isn't it?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
the wave receiver.
You find the notes with that. Like it beeps, it gets you to them, right? Because you clear away papers.
It's like a metal detector.
Find it. Basically, just for those waves that, not the ocean ones, but radio waves. There we go. We got there at the end. But yeah, I think Delilah makes a comment on the radio about, we should burn the whole place down. What did you say when she said that? Did you agree with her? Did you say, yeah, let's do it?
It's funny. Maybe we should burn the whole place down. I note, I think I stayed quiet. There was one, like, just the ... answer.
Yeah.
I think I picked that one because the notes I have here is, why would we do that? Is that an elaborate prank? Like, why? We're here to stop the fires, not start them. We didn't start the fire, and I don't want to.
It was always burning.
It should have been burning.
I said, like, no, absolutely not, because that was a choice. So I said no. I disagreed with her, and then she's like, we could do it. And I was like, wait, and do what then? Call it in or what? Like, I was like, no, we're not gonna do this. So that was my stance on it. I was very firm with her. I was like, absolutely not. However, so you exit the site, and when you turn around, everything is on fire. And the whole station behind you is burning. And Delilah's like, was that you? And you were like, no, I just told you I wasn't going to do it. But it's burning nevertheless. Yeah, you basically get back to your tower and
then isn't it the next day after that or no?
I think it's either the next day or a couple days after.
After that, you then receive a transmission.
Yes.
An anonymous one. And it's a recording of you and Delilah's conversation that's edited in a way that sounds like Delilah and Henry had the idea to burn the whole place down because of the conversation that they were having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds like that out of context, but that's not at all what happened.
Yeah, what happens is your transmitter starts beeping. You follow the beeping. You get to like a backpack,
right?
And that is rigged to like a alarm. Like you take the backpack, the alarm rings. You smash the alarm. You look into the backpack, and what you find on the backpack is actually a set of keys to the cave. So that is important. And then Delilah's like, you're not at your lookout right now? And you're like, no, I'm not. I'm right here. She's like, oh, there's someone there. And then you find that tape.
Oh, right.
On your lookout.
Right, because Delilah asks, she asks you a question of like, well, like, what are you doing right now? Because I see somebody. And then I remember hearing that and like feeling panicked. Like, it feels like somebody's violating your space, you know? Like, I remember hustling back, and then you come back to your watchtower, and it's not destroyed or anything. Everything looks fine, and I was so suspicious that there was a camera set up or something was moved or something had happened.
Right after, because now you have the set of keys to the cave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can go explore the caves. And the first time you go into the cave, someone shuts the door behind you.
Oh, that scared me shitless.
Yeah.
Because it's just loud. It's loud and unexpected.
Yeah, and you can't get out anymore. And so...
I just want to note, I think this is before we do any of that. There's a point where Henry has, like, a question spiral that made my head hurt. He's asking if, like, any of this is real. And how do we know if any of this is real?
Yeah.
And what is happening? And just, I think it's because he's wondering if maybe he now has onset dementia, too. Mm-hmm. I think he thinks he's, does he say schizophrenic? Is that what he uses?
I'm not sure if he does,
Uses
but it's at least implied. That's what he's
Yeah.
thinking.
So it just shows like his mental state is like a lot of
Basically.
doubt.
Which I guess when you're alone for so long, like I think the game ends at day 78. Like he's been alone there for 78 days, only having Delilah on the radio to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing the teens, which also later we find out they were reported missing. And Delilah just filed a report that says that they have never talked to them. Even though, like, I, as Henry, told her to just say, go ahead, say the truth and stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you've... Yeah. And then later Delilah is like, oh yeah, by the way, I said we never saw them. And the guy was, as Henry was like, why would you say that? Why would you say
Impulsive
that?
liar. It's truth.
Which lucky enough, they turn up. I think they just got arrested and they landed in jail.
The girls do get found.
Yeah,
and I thought they were murdered or something.
Me too.
Yeah. With Brian Goodwin.
Yep. Oh, hold on. We're getting our head over ourselves. But yeah, we explore the cave, right? And the first time when you look down,
well, it's like assumed that they're dead or something. Like they haven't found anything.
Well, Delilah just says that they just left.
Mm-hmm.
Ned and Brian. Because, oh yeah, right, we, at the like, towards the start of the game, we find a pack from Brian Goodwin. I think that's when she tells us all the story about everything. I just remembered. But yeah, so we go exploring the cave shuts behind us. There's one point where you can look down, like a very steep drop.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a shoe. A red shoe. And when you exit the cave, and you see this big area, and it's all of Brian's school things, comic books. You find lots of notes. You find a disposable camera that has some pictures of it.
The camera. I started using it to collect evidence.
Yes.
That's when I started taking photos, because you can take photos of everything.
Oh, maybe you already found it before, actually. But I don't know. You find some pythons, and there's a note from Brian Goodwin to basically any ranger who finds this, saying that his dad wants to go climbing a lot, but he doesn't really want to go climbing anymore. He's kind of sick of it, so he's hiding the pythons. Is it pitons or pythons? It's those things you put in the rocks to make
I don't know what they're called.
Able to climb rocks, basically. I'm just gonna call them pythons. Whatever. Just correct me. Correct me in the comments. But yeah, so he finds those with the note saying that Brian didn't really want to like climb anymore, and you find like basically a Dungeons and Dragons sheet that Brian made. You find a like a note for like a radio transmitter that Brian and Ned, like his dad, worked on, basically showing that they were both very nerdy and very knowledgeable when it comes to all that transmission stuff. Just some little cute decorations, like a toy dinosaur, basically like young boy stuff, you know?
Right.
More or less. And it's like Castle, Brian and Ned and Goodwin, and he made all these little signs and everything, and it's really cute, but it also, there's a lot of stuff there. And I think Henry makes the note of like, he just left all his stuff here, and then I think Delilah says, yeah, I think they had to leave in a hurry. I think they almost once got caught, because you're not supposed to have kids there. But now we have the pythons, right? So now we can go deeper in the cave, and so we do that. We go back into the cave and climb deeper, and I think for me, this was the most heartbreaking moment in the entire game. And I think it's meant to be as well.
This is when you stumble upon Brian Goodwin's body.
Yeah.
Partially underneath a bunch of rock rubble. He's missing a shoe, too. And it happens to be the same shoe that you found. So that kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, you can kind of piece together where he fell.
And he looks like he's been there for a very long time based on how very skinny he looks and how dusty.
Like leathery skin. You can see that the cave preserved a little bit, but he looks like he's mummified at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just heartbreaking because you just found all of these lovely drawings from him. You found his homework, you found the note to the ranger, you found a little postcard, and
It's very relatable things. Like any point of your childhood, you had something
yeah,
to of that. And I think that's what it's
yeah.
supposed to.
And you imagine like all the life the boy had ahead of him, and then you kind of just see
Right.
him, and that ladder was so heartbreaking. Him saying he was hiding his dad's pythons because he doesn't want to go climbing anymore. And presumably that's exactly what happened. They went climbing again because his dad was like, let's go climbing one more time. And maybe because he was hiding his dead pythons, maybe he had like bad ones. I don't know what happened. It looks a bit as if something, to me, it did look as if a python had snapped out of the rock. Because on the top there, you don't see a python in it. And I think there is rope with a python attached by Brian's body. So to me, it does look as if that snapped out of the rock and he fell. I think it's like a couple 100 feet down.
I think it's called a shale slide.
Oh, yeah. But it's like very steep.
Yes.
Hmm. But yeah, so that's, I don't know. The first time I saw this, I definitely cried. The second time I already knew was this coming.
Looking at all the photos again
Yeah.
is very sad.
Yeah.
I found the shoe and his dead body.
Mm-hmm. You leave the cave, right, and you call it into Delilah, and she's blaming herself because she allowed Ned to stay there with his child, and she also says that Ned killed him. I don't know if you believe that. What's your theory here? Did Ned kill him, or was it an accident?
Um, so from what I've gathered, I think it was a climbing accident.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just a very misguided man trying to cover up his climbing accident that took his son's life. And I think he was so anxious about being found for that accident, and maybe he just had shock after losing his son and wasn't thinking clearly. I don't know. Maybe he just assumed Delilah and Henry knew more than what they thought, and that's why he acted the way he did, and he was keeping track of everything, and blackmailing them that he'll burn the place down, or that they'll quote unquote burn the place down to just hide all of that, or to place blame on somebody. So I think it was just a mistake. I will say I don't think he murdered him, but I think he is to blame at this. Like, he is to blame. Ned is to blame.
Yeah. I had very similar thoughts because the very next day, right, is the last day of the game. Because the fire has grown, like there was a fire before, and now there's the fire at Wapiti Station. They have merged and become a mega fire, and the lookouts are being pulled out of the area because it's getting too dangerous. It is very awful looking. Like, there is just dust and smoke all around you. It is scary, and
it looks like it's hard to breathe.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would have imagined Henry coughing more, but he really doesn't. I'm like, how do you breathe in this, dude?
The voice actors didn't have time.
But maybe. Why well, just says super long? Who knows?
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, so while Henry's evacuating, he comes across the transmitter is beeping once again, and it's basically Ned leaving one last trail to a hideout where basically it's implied, I think it's been like about 5 years or something like that, maybe longer. Ned has been staying in this park for that long, basically guarding his dead son's body in a way.
Yep.
Keeping track of everyone coming in and out, making sure nobody's finding anything, surviving the winters somehow, because boy, it gets cold up there.
Full on feral this man went after his son passed.
Yeah, like stealing supplies from the lookouts, basically trying to survive off of that. He knows how radio transmitters work, so he tapped into the radio transmissions between Henry and Delilah and lots of other people.
Well, and he used to work there too, right? So it's like,
oh yeah, yeah,
he knew all of this information. He knew the
Yeah.
way of the land. He knew the schedule. So
yeah.
it's always the people from the inside you have to watch out for. You know, keep
Basically.
keep your enemies close. Or what is it? Keep your
Yeah.
friends close, but your enemies closer.
Keep your enemies closer. Yeah, so he was basically just doing that because there's a tape he leaves Henry, and it says like he had nothing to go back to, and nobody would have believed him that it was an accident, so he didn't want to go back, and he was very heartbroken. He said it once again and again that it was an accident, and he loved his son, and he didn't want this to happen. And there's some very sweet memorabilia he has in his little hideout cave, like a Father's Day card. There's a photo of his son. There's like the Dungeons and Dragons sheet that Brian made. And oh my god, just talking about it makes me feel a little heartbroken. And then you have all that radio transmission stuff, then the typed out fake like Delilah and Henry things that he fabricated, and there's like notes on the side of the cave being like, oh my god, they found something, and I came across them. Now they think that there is some sort of conspiracy going on, and he's like arrows saying, use this, lean into this, and then he starts fabricating all this. It says pit them against each other at some point, so he very well knew what he was doing. And I think it's at this point, it just feels as if he has run into this lie for so long. It's not even about the original thing anymore. It's just a very sad story in the end, and I don't think he was very, like, you can imagine how paranoid Henry already got after 78 days basically alone, but he at least had someone to talk to. Imagine how paranoid and anxious and just completely through you would be when you would live there for multiple years completely all alone and no connection to the outside, whatever, no one to talk to.
Protecting your child's body from being found. I think you would go like a tad bit cuckoo.
Yeah, you can say that.
Especially when, this sounds terrible because it's like a missing boy and father, but it's like people aren't looking that much into it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like there's no search and rescue team being sent out. It's not like a whole thing that's being talked about. And for Ned to be so paranoid, like I said, a big theme of the game, paranoia, enough to mess with Delilah and Henry like that.
Yeah.
Because he assumed they were on his trail when really they had no idea what was happening and were just as confused. And it was just all over a misunderstanding. All over a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
That could have been very easily avoided.
Well.
Or just don't take your kid out doing dangerous things.
Yeah, well, yes and no, I guess.
Don't go climbing.
Yeah. I think in his mind, I don't think it was dangerous.
No.
Right? I think in his mind, it was just training the boy for the wilderness. And I'm pretty sure there was like PTSD related stuff going on there.
Father-son bonding.
In a way, right? And it just led to a very unfortunate accident. I can even imagine, and this is maybe this is just my imagination playing tricks with me, but I can just imagine the conversation that Brian and Ned had right before this accident happened. Because it must have gone around along the lines of, we're going to go climbing. I don't want to go climbing anymore, Dad. I've been climbing all summer. I just really don't. And, ooh, look, the pythons are missing. Oh, we can just take yours. But mine are not that good. Whatever. Don't be such a wuss about it. Just use them anyway. And then cut to a couple seconds after where they snap out of the rock and Brian drops to his death. And that's something that does haunt me a lot with this game. Just the imagination of what happened and what must have gone down, and just the sheer I can't even imagine what Netta must have felt in that moment.
Does the idea of like do you think about ripple effects a lot throughout your life?
Yeah, a little.
Like if you didn't do X, Y, and Z. I always think about my life if I had never gone into a relationship with Wyatt. I feel like I can't even imagine, like, so much of my life has changed because of meeting Wyatt and COVID. Because those two things happening were the reasons that I initially moved in with him, was because we went into lockdown. So it's just weird to think of a life, like a version of me that doesn't have those things. It doesn't feel like me.
Yeah. I literally just talked about this, I shit you not, like 4 hours ago with someone.
Really?
In a park. Just that. Like talking about the alternate versions of us that are going on living different lives.
Yep.
And how we deal with it. Because I feel like a year ago, we've dealt with it very differently. I would have been very much the, oh my God, what if I did this? What if I did this? Maybe my life would have been better. And so on and so forth. Whereas now I feel like I'm sort of, in a way, accepting of the choices that I made. And I feel it's in a way, it doesn't give me anything to think about what could have, should have, would have happened. But it's been a process, right? I could have been like a grad student. Like I could have written my doctorates.
Sure.
Like had my doctorate's degree, because 2 professors came up and was like, do you want to write it with me? And I was like, no. But I literally had to go through a grieving period of, I didn't take this, and that's okay. Like, that's definitely...
Or the person that you didn't become.
Yeah, I had to grieve that person to let them go.
And I think that's fine. And then I think it's also in my mindset, how I view it is I'm very comfortable with my decisions, and I think I don't tend to, I try not to go back and forth. Usually once I pick my decision, I pick it and I stick to it. And a part of me finds comfort in knowing that there's another version of me that didn't do that. Like, I am living this version of me, and then there's another one that did that. And that's just how I try to think of it positively.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the end of the game, right?
You're evacuating, you're on a call with Delilah, and you get a choice to ask her. I asked her to wait for me, because you get a choice to tell her to go ahead and leave without you, or for her to wait for you.
Me too.
And I asked her to wait.
Yeah, I asked her to wait as well.
Wait in the helicopter. And she did not.
Nope.
She left you. You climb her tower, because where the takeoff point is near where her watchtower is, and you explore it, and you find a photo she drew of you, because at one point she can watch you from her tower because it's a bit above yours, and she's drawing like a little figure of you, and she asks for details of your face.
Yeah.
I remember I said I had tired eyes.
Me too.
Was one that I said. I can't remember. I know I said I had like a stash. I forget what the other question was, but I think I said
like
I
if you look like a certain celebrity. I said I look like Burt Reynolds.
I think that's who I said too. I said Burt Reynolds too.
Because there is a picture of
So
him.
we both had the kind of muscular dude or whatever.
Yeah. But like dad bod.
Yeah, like complete not yeah.
But I know there's a picture of you and Julia, but there's like the camera is placed over Julia's face, so you can't see her face, but you can see your face.
There's like a flash.
Yeah.
It's like a mirror photo with the flash that blocks her face.
Yeah, and Henry is very much this more like burly figure with like a full beard.
He's a bear.
He's a bear. He's a full-on bear. That's what I was like, ah.
Think of, does anybody know Ken?
Ken? Like from Barbie?
Cinnamon Toast Ken.
Oh, do you know how I know him?
How do you know him?
Because I used to follow his wife in everything she did. She used to be massive in cosplay.
Oh, really?
She was the first streamer I ever watched.
If anybody is familiar with Cinnamon Toast Ken, that is what I envisioned for
Henry. Yeah, a bit older and without glasses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's 100% who I was like. Yeah, but if you say it now, like, yeah, I know who. If you say Cinnamon Toast Ken, I know who you're talking about.
But after you kind of explore Delilah's tower, you make your way to the rescue firefighter, or you make your way back up to the helicopter that is there to take you. And there's a rescue firefighter there, and I have a note here that I ask, why did I think the rescue firefighter was going to let go of my hand and leave? Because there's like a little cinematic where you reach your hand out and the firefighter goes.
He pulls you in.
And he pulls you in and you take off. And it felt like slow-mo to me. Because there's such a rush to get away from the growing fire and everything that was happening. And I, didn't know what to believe. I didn't know why Delilah left me, because I thought, like, why is she so keen to get out so fast? Like, my idea is that means it has to be so bad if you're willing to leave someone who's asking you to stay. I don't know. That's just my thought process. Mm-hmm. So I was just waiting for... I think I played too much Call of Duty for just my hand to be let go, and I was gonna fall backwards, and then the helicopter was gonna take off, and then I was gonna get engulfed in flames. That was what I thought was gonna happen. So I wrote, Henry may have gotten over his paranoia, but I have not. Those are my notes.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember back to the first time I played this game. I had the same feeling of, oh my god, I need to leave. I need to get out of this. Because I was still thinking about if there's a possibility that I could be engulfed in flames. Mm-hmm. So I was still thinking about that. And I was very insecure because fire is one of the big fears that I have.
Really?
It's something, yeah. I've been afraid of fire since I was a little child. I had periodically, like, recurring nightmares when I was a child about everything going down in a house fire and all that stuff. Me having to choose who to rescue, me not being able to rescue anyone. And I was like 4. I don't know who I was rescuing, but hey, But yeah, I remember that paranoia of wanting to leave this place.
Have you ever heard of the song called Burning House by Cam?
No.
It's kind of like a country song.
I have not.
I'm going to send it to you because you might like it. It's one of my favorite songs.
But yeah, I felt very like, oh my god, we should get out of here. And then he just is sitting at the tower. And when you are sitting on the tower, you're talking to Delilah one more time. And you're basically confronting her about why did she already leave? And she's like, I just couldn't be there and see you and think about the dead boy in the cave. And I mean, fair enough. I don't think I could do it either. But yeah, it did feel a bit weird like that. And
me too.
Mm-hmm. I think the first time the firefighter reached out, I also thought it was a bit slow. Like, dude, just get me out of here. Just go. Everything is aflame. But I didn't feel like he was gonna let go.
Like, why are we taking our sweet time? I did.
Yeah, well, to make sure that you don't fall down.
I thought I was gonna get left behind.
That's why he's taking his sweet time.
Well, I got places to be, dude.
Yeah, places where it's not burning.
Yeah. Get me out of here. Not after what I've experienced.
Yeah. How did you already talked about like feelings of paranoia and all of that. Like what did the game do to you? Or do not like that. What did it do to you? What did it do with you? What were like the thoughts you were having? Because I will say visually it's a very beautiful game. It has like a very...
visually it's very stunning.
Calm environment, actually. It's beautiful.
Most definitely. There's nothing scary about it. Wonderful. It's very visually appealing. The dialogue is nice. I like all the voice actors. It's very calm and cozy. And it's just those little elements of like psychological horror. I mean, what it did to me, other than just like straight up paranoia, I didn't trust anything that I was doing. I felt
Mm-hmm.
unsafe. I felt unsafe without a weapon. I felt vulnerable, lonely, I guess. I didn't like that the only person I could talk to was Delilah. I felt like I was
Yeah.
receiving misinformation. I didn't like the idea of not being able to, I don't want to say research anything, but just like know what was happening, like relying on her to give me information of the outside world. I don't like that barrier, you know? It's
Mm-hmm.
especially now knowing she was a compulsive liar, it makes me think, well, what else did she lie about? What, like, if you replay it, like, what else is she bending the truth about? And what is semi true and what is just completely false?
I think, and this is interesting. It didn't bother me as much. And I think this
Interesting.
is, comes back to because literally you came into the chat today and asked for a poll between would you rather receive a harmful, like a harsh truth
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
or
A comforting lie.
comforting lie? And I was the only one who said I'd be okay with the comforting lie. It doesn't seem to be, it doesn't seem to bother me as much.
I don't know. I'm done being lied to. I've had a lot of friendship losses because full truths weren't being told to me, which I was involved in more than I realized, but I didn't know because I wasn't being told the complete truth. So
Mm.
it's a weird situation.
And I didn't have that.
Right.
People were very honest with me. Um, yeah. I think that's definitely, I can see that being like an upbringing thing. And I wonder, I mean, there's some compelling things that you said, right, though, that you're gonna, I don't know if it was you or someone else, or you would probably find out eventually the
Mm-hmm.
truth. And how would that make you feel in that circumstance? I think for me, it really depends on if the thing has any sort of impact on
For
me.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
for instance, if someone like Brian Goodwin, right? If someone told me he and his dad left and they lived on a wonderful life and he got to explore all the radio transmitter stuff and he just became a technician later in life or something like that. I think I would be okay with having that lie in my head rather than knowing that he's dead down a shale slide with his head smashed in. And his dad is hiding out in the wilderness because it doesn't, it's not something that affects me
Mm-hmm.
in that regard. And I think in that instance I would rather live with the comforting lie. I think.
So for something that doesn't loosely affect you, you would want to go with the comforting lie, just for the fact,
Yeah.
for humanity. I, oh, see, that's difficult because I can understand
But
that,
you don't get the choice. And that's the
right?
thing.
Because I can understand your point of view, but at the same time, I think of, I don't want to know that Ned Goodman is, I don't want to have the idea planted that these two are alive and well and happy when the child was crushed to death from parental neglect
Mm.
and the parent hasn't come forward. I don't think that's fair.
And I can see that too. I can see that point as
I don't
well.
think it's good to have a memory or perceive them in a good light when they're not really what they are or what they've perceived to be all along.
It would dishonor Brian.
Yeah, exactly. Like it
Mm-hmm.
dishonors the son's memory, and I don't think that's fair.
I can see that too. That's why I think this is very interesting in this way, and I think that's the important bit that we don't get the choice, right? This is not about what we would like and what we would like to happen because it has already happened, and we just get put in front of this outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also the same with the Dalai. Like, we might ask her to stay, but we don't get that choice because she has already made her choice.
So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you and I had a little bit, we had a little differing answers, especially when it came to our wife, Julia. So I decided to take care of her by myself and not put her in a home.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions I have is, why is it hard to not feel guilty when putting yourself first?
Wow.
Like, why, as Henry, do I feel obligated to take care of my wife rather than take care of her and myself by putting her in care of workers so then I can still keep myself well and healthy?
Yeah. I think and I think that's one thing that I feel like reveals a lot about you. And I find it very hard that this is one of the first things that you get about the game, right? It hits you right in the right where it hurts. And I think
Because even as Henry, I had such a because going through all that, like, story dialogue where you pick and you're with your family, and I just have, like, as Henry, I just have this mental loyalty to my wife.
yeah.
And there are points talking to Delilah where she kind of flirts with you, and it gives you an opportunity to move on. Because, Julia, your wife has onset dementia. She probably wouldn't even recognize you
Yeah.
at this point if you came home.
I mean, she calls you at one point, right?
Oh, well, was that true though? Was that actually her calling, or was that a dream of some sort?
I think so. I think she actually called.
Because I thought that was fake.
Oh,
You think she did?
I think she actually called.
I think that was fake. I thought that was like an illusion, like it was some type of like that's what he needed in that moment to keep him going, because he didn't have like Delilah talking him through it like he had been those 70 days.
Oh my god, that could have been too, because there is this point where she says like Delilah sounds nice.
Yeah, and it's like, how does she know that?
She's giving her blessing. Well, no. She knows it because, okay, Delilah says on the phone, "Wake up. Hello, Henry, wake up. There's someone here to talk to you." And she, like, puts her through.
Okay.
So
I think I missed
basically,
that
Julia and Delilah have talked on the phone. Basically, Delilah, like, basic calling in, Julia calling in, and Delilah patching her through to you. I think that's why they talked on the phone before. That's why I thought it was real.
Okay. I must have missed that then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was like a hallucination.
I mean, that could also have been, just very well. That's,
I mean,
definitely...
yeah, whatever you interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt as if moving on from Julia was unethical. And that's why I ask again, is why is it so hard to not feel guilty when putting yourself first?
Yeah. I think that's yeah.
With my perception of Henry, it was hard to make friends with Delilah or want to instigate things with her, because mentally I'm still loyal to Julia, because that's all I've known. I don't know the playing around.
And you think it would be selfish of Henry to move on from his wife, who has dementia at this point, because the early onset is already behind her.
I don't think it's selfish, but I wonder why it feels selfish to me. Like, logically, I know it's fine. Morally, though, I don't think it's fine. I think that's where I come into different.
It is very interesting.
I think that's a mind over heart, brain over heart kind of thing.
I think it definitely, I feel like this is one of those things which really depends on how you were brought up, and in a way, but I think it is a very interesting way how you talk about it. And I think that's another one of those things that goes through the game of, like, what is selfishness, what is taking care of yourself, what is, like, putting up borders, because multiple of these characters are putting up multiple, like, barriers at certain point to protect themselves. So, like, Brian is hiding the pythons because he doesn't want to go climbing anymore. So that's where he kind of draws the border for himself, which then gets crossed again, because they do end up climbing at some point. Like, Henry, either way, Henry decides to take the job, which is definitely his way of like putting up a barrier around himself.
Mm-hmm.
Then Delilah, I mean, I feel like at some point also her lying pulls into this. Maybe this is a self-defense mechanism too. That she just puts up barriers around herself, thinking that if she just puts up multiple lies of herself, she doesn't have to divulge into the truth of her own stuff. Maybe it's too painful. Maybe there's more to that. We don't know, but there's definitely that, like putting up defense walls around yourself. That's, I feel like that's definitely part of the game experience that we have, and along with like the paranoia and the loneliness and mixed with this beautiful landscape, it is an emotional whirlwind of a game, and it makes you really think about some things a lot. It made me think.
An emotional whirlwind. It's scenically beautiful.
It's a like a fire starter of of thoughts, if you will.
It's the match to my thoughts.
You like what I did there? Yeah,
I did.
Thank you.
10 out of 10. I loved it.
Thank you. But yeah, that's the. How did you like the game, Kat?
I just want to note one thing. I wrote one note I have is, I can believe Delilah left without me, bitch. She drew a good photo though. That is what I have written down.
She did a good painting.
Okay.
What's your final assessment?
It feels representative without putting it on blast. You can relate to every character in one way or another, just in like small chunks by maybe a story they're telling. Like for example, Delilah's alcoholism. I think at one point she, if I'm remembering correctly, she does call Henry, like drunk calls him.
Yeah.
Right? And
she does.
It's just awkward, and I've had that happen to me a few times. And it's just awkward. Like I could feel Henry's tension, especially with my replies. So, and it's not, well, like you said, it's not said, but I'm pretty sure Henry questions if like he's going through symptoms of schizophrenia. It's like especially when he was seeing, which we now know is Ned Goodman, but we didn't at the time, when he was seeing different things and, creepy things were happening. But overall, I would say it's well done and well written.
I think so too. So for me, it did trigger me in a sense that it made me think about these certain things. I definitely had to take a moment and sit there after I finished the game being like, why does this get like so much under my skin?
Yeah, interesting you say that, because same. But probably for different reasons.
Yes.
I feel like mine, like...
Maybe. And we...
Right. No, like for my trigger, like it triggered me in a way where I felt overwhelmed sometimes. Like I just needed to step away for a few seconds. Felt like I was getting overwhelmed with information, and then a sudden, like there would be a new realization between Delilah and Henry, and then the story is suddenly shifting in a new light. Like there was a lot of whiplash of not knowing what's the truth, and that made me anxious and untrusting of everything. And it also confused me because it's like I don't know I don't know what's happening.
I definitely get that. I think I was mostly triggered just by Brian Goodwin and the story about I think that really took me, like I really took that to heart. But yeah, I think it doesn't like you already said, it doesn't give you gory images. Yes, you see Brian Goodwin's partly mauled body, like because there's like rocks over where his head would be, so you don't see the face, and I think that's a choice, so it's less scarring.
It's nothing gory, no, it's just uncomfortable.
It's a mummified body, but I think they leave out the face because it would be more triggering. in a negative sense, and I'm really grateful for them. There is a part where you can see a dead elk if you go down a specific path, but I tried to walk down that path and see the dead elk, and I must have missed it, or the game just didn't spawn it for me.
I did not see a dead elk. I'll tell you that. I did not see a single dead.
You can hear like an elk dying at some point in the game. It's like a weird, but only if you go through like a specific path or something. But you're supposed to be able to see it. But I don't know. I must have missed it, or the game just didn't spawn it. But other than that, there's like no gore in the game at all. So I think that's like one of the things that I love. Once again, I think we mentioned, I feel like we keep mentioning this, but I do want to go back to it. Like, the game is so good in telling this very deeply psychological story without giving you these gory images. And I think, once again, less is more, because the less there is, the more tense you get.
Less is more.
Less is more, guys.
Less is more, y'all. You heard it here first.
For sure. But yeah, that's I think one important thing that I want to say to like sum this whole thing up. It is a very powerful story. And it is, I feel like for me it was replayable, because for the second time that I played it, this whole tension wasn't there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so cool.
And replaying it has replayability, because you can take
different choices.
Different routes. Yeah. You can take different... Yeah, I would want to replay it just to see what kind of a different life I could live. I would see, like, playing it now, I want to see if I could hook up with Delilah. Like, let me see how far I can go with her. Julia who? I don't know who that bitch is.
But yeah, and it like I said, the second time you play it, the tension is gone a little bit. Like, you don't feel as tense because you kind of know what's going to happen, and you can just enjoy it a little bit more. Like, I felt like I was like, oh my god, yes, I can go back to Firewatch. It's so chill and nice, and I don't have to worry about it much because I know I'm going to be fine. Oh, yeah, what did you call the fire, by the way? It was like Big Fire, Flapjack Fire, or Delilah?
Oh, the Flapjack Fire. I named it Flapjack.
Same!
Yay!
Flapjack. So, out of 10 Flapjack Fires, how many fires would you give Firewatch?
I would say I would give 9 out of 10 flapjack flowers.
Wow.
Flapjack fires.
Yeah.
And I would say that because it has pretty solid replayability. I want to recommend it to people just to kind of see the choices they get, or like the decisions they make. I think that's what's most interesting to me, is just knowing what the choices they decide to make, and the questions behind why they decided to do that. I think it deals with important issues that we often overlook and ask. It makes you ask questions to yourself that I think you otherwise wouldn't have asked.
Right. That you would rather avoid, but they are actually important to have.
Right.
Conversations, maybe, you want to have with loved ones.
What is your overall recommendation out of 10 floppy walkie-talkies?
I'm gonna give it a 10.
Really? Nice.
I think for me, I played this game. I think this game came out in 2017, and I played it in like 2018 or 19. And it was so deep in my memory that I still was thinking about it. Actually, I think I actually watched either Jacksepticeye or Markiplier. I played in 2017, and then I played it again in 2021 on stream. I think there was something like that, but I had already forgotten.
I didn't realize how long it's been out.
It's been out for a while.
I did not realize it's been out for a long time. Yeah. I thought it was a little new, but apparently not. No, I was wrong.
I think it's been out for a bit. But yeah, at that point I had completely forgotten the story. And then when I played it for myself, I was just blown away. Mm-hmm. It stuck with me. Like, the visuals and the feelings that I have are very, very much still with me. And I think because of that, and because of, like you said, the important conversations that it triggers, that you really have to it forces you a bit to think about the hard questions in a safe environment because it's not you, it's the game. And I think that I love when games do that. And I think
For sure, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, I think it lets you explore to an extent of what you would do in a way, preparing you to whatever could happen afterwards. So I think that's why it just ranks really, really high. And it's one of those, like, my top games that I want to go back to again and again. I actually have 100% on it with all achievements. I made sure I got all the achievements.
Let's
It's one of
go.
the only ones I have with all achievements.
Heck yeah.
Because I loved it so much. So yeah, I think that's why I would give it 10 out of 10 floppy walkie-talkies this time around.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's flop and go.
Yep, very much so. Oh my god. Okay. Kat, what game, since I recommended this game to you, what game would you like me to play next?
Well, I think next episode is going to be special because, well, we're going to bring in a special guest and they're going to have us play one of their games. And
oh my god.
I guess we'll find out that episode what we're playing.
Let's go.
With our drum roll, please. I'll add in a drum. It's happening somewhere.
Right.
With
Hello, I am Inna.
oh my god, how exciting!
Let's freaking go! Woo! Oh my god, I can't wait. That's gonna be amazing.
Right?
Ah,
It'll be so fun.
it'll be amazing. All right, Kat, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much
As always.
for chatting
Aw.
with me. Aw, yeah, well, that's
Aw.
true. Okay, everyone, go make sure you check out twitch.tv/IamCatastrophic and all of her other socials because she's amazing. You should go watch her streams, mostly Tomb Raider at this point, and mostly like the old Tomb Raider stuff, and it's really fun to see her not shoot the monks.
Aw, that means a lot to hear. Thank you. And guys, make sure to check out Little Messenger over at twitch.tv/Little Messenger with her Stardew Valley. And what else do you play? What else do you do?
Stardew Valley.
She's marrying Clint right now. She divorced.
Don't remind me. Oh no, I
don't have-
divorced Olivia. It's from The Expended.
Oh,
Mom,
Olivia,
for
right.
Clint, of all people. It's for charity, okay? I did it for charity.
Rip.
I'm probably going to be playing some Palea at some point because everyone's jumping on the Palea
Right.
train.
I just downloaded that today. I haven't started. I did
Exciting.
download it though.
Awesome,
So
let's
yeah.
go. I think you can do multiplayer on it, so
Yeah, Rachel was doing that today.
let's freaking go.
Here we
yeah,
go. Shout out
so-
Rachel Cave.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's
All right,
go.
Messenger, I love you.
I love you too,
Always
Kat.
appreciate seeing you.
Mwah.
All right, take care. Smooch.
Bye!
Bye.